Hi everybody, Brad McCullough here, Advanced Technology Services. In a previous video, I introduced the concept of a factory maintenance assessment. An assessment that really helps you understand how your maintenance is performing and how it can be improved. I also talked about 7 categories of investigation, areas that we'd look at in detail to really understand how the maintenance program is working and try to find a way to improve it. Now we're going to take a look at each one of these categories individually and kind of get into the subcomponents. Talk a little bit more about how we would dive into this and understand how maintenance is performing and how we might be able to improve it. So let's take a look. So when we do a factory maintenance assessment, probably the second most important area that we look at outside of the workforce and how that operates is spare parts and materials. You can put the best team in the planet out on the floor and they're not going to be able to get the work done without the parts they need to support them. So the categories that we look at, we investigate to really understand how the maintenance team is being supported from a logistics point of view out on the floor. Basic inventory levels generally seem like they have the parts they need. You know, we find this out by interviewing the maintenance people, talking to the ops people on the floor, the operations people. A lot of times they'll be very critical of a maintenance operation because they're trying to get the work done, and sometimes if there's a problem, they'll be the first one to tell us that there's a problem. Critical spares plan. This has 2 dimensions. We're looking at critical parts, hard to get parts, expensive parts, slow turnaround or big lead time parts, but also critical assets out on the floor make a difference. So you take these 2 dimensions and you really investigate the critical spare parts plan. Inventory accuracy. Do some samples. The system says we've got 5 parts in this bin. Do we really have 5? A lot of times there's leakage, there's problems, things don't get recorded right, and there's nothing worse than being a maintenance guy and you go to the crib and you need a part to get a machine running. You're supposed to have 2 or 3 of them and there's 0 in the bin, right? The organization of the inventory. Like to see fast-moving parts close to the crib window, slower-moving parts someplace else. Is it organized and is it efficient? Inventory security, we touched on that, making sure that the crib's locked down, that you have the parts when you need them, that things aren't just disappearing. Sometimes around Christmas time, it's really hard to find batteries in a crib. Anyway, security is important. Crib locations in the plant. Where are they located? Is it an easy to get to place or is it out of the way? Is it a second thought? So those maintenance resources, those people out on the floor are very valuable. Technology, knowledge and what they do are valuable. We don't want to waste their time running around chasing parts. We want to make sure that, that they have what they need and they can do the job well. Purchasing process and repairable parts process. So are we purchasing for reliability? Are we looking at cost for life cycle, or are we just buying on the cheap? You know, we've seen times where you buy a cheap bearing but you use 20 of them a year versus you buy the right bearing and maybe you use 5 a year or 3. And the downtime can be really painful when you're using cheap parts and they're wearing out faster. Repairable parts. What parts, you know, when you send a repairable part out in the shop, do you get the core back? That's one thing, but then also when you send them out to repair vendors and get them back, are you tracking warranty? Can you flag that? So if there's a premature failure of a repairable part, do you get credit for that and are you able to manage that? And there's a whole set of metrics around repairable parts and turnaround time, supplier choice, those things. I'll have another video that shows you a little bit about what a world-class repair organization looks like and what you should expect from them. Emergency purchasing. It's going to happen, right? We can't have every part we need. So there's going to be times when we need something that's 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. How do I get this part as fast as possible? And what's your plan for that? Who are the suppliers that you're counting on? And where do you have risks in your inventory and your inventory management? And of course, systems and metrics, you know. What system are you tracking it in? And what measurements are you using to really understand how the storeroom's supporting the maintenance effort out on the floor and how do you improve it? So things like when a person comes to the crib, how often do they get what they want? You know, the second metric might be, and there's 2 parts to that. One is was I supposed to have the part but I didn't, or did I just not have the part and they asked for it? So we interview the maintenance people and talk to the ops people, really get an idea of their opinion how this is working, and then look at any data and evidence that they have. So this is just a quick overview of how we assess a spare parts and materials program that supports your maintenance effort. We dive into each of these areas and talk to a lot of people and look at a lot of detail and evidence to try to understand if there's areas to be improved. Anyway, hope this helps. Spare parts and materials, very important. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer it. Thanks. Hope you have a great day.